right there. All right, let's talk about student advocacy. It's tough, especially when you're in a 2 year, sometimes less graduate program, and you don't really have a lot of time, and the university doesn't really need to wait that long until you're gone. For more than a year, probably about a year and a half, I've been trying to get period products in all the bathrooms across the Brandeis University campus. And after what felt like a bit of a laborious and bureaucratic journey, I, along with the president of an undergraduate group called PAD, or Period Activists at DICE, uh, and the president of the Undergraduate Student Union, we finally successfully funded 52 period product dispensers across 10 undergraduate residential buildings for a semester. These products are going to be free in all the women's and gender inclusive bathrooms. The whole project itself costs roughly about $21,000 for the pilot program, and even better, less than $2,000 to maintain it per semester. Oh, and Kyla and Peyton have been driving this campaign longer than the 1.5 years I've been here at Heller. They've been building awareness around menstrual equity and destigmatizing menstruation, and they're freaking awesome. Um, I attend the Heller School, which has made all period products free in the women's and gender inclusive bathrooms and 1 out of 3 men's restrooms. However, the International Business School has them freely available in all restrooms, regardless of gender. I feel like there's probably an analogy in there somewhere about capitalism, free markets, and the bizarre nature by which we commodify every aspect of our bodies, but I don't know. PAD ran a survey in 2021 where 50% of students admitted to missing class, important exams, or work due to not having access to pads or tampons. Now, undergrads are especially vulnerable because they're actually not allowed to have a car on campus, the place they literally live, which means they rely on overpriced products from the C-store. And this inherently disadvantages menstruating students from low income backgrounds, which intersects with race, gender, and sexuality. Forcing transgender and genderqueer students into the women's restroom or to constantly carry menstrual products causes gender dysphoria and is a very real, genuine form of violence and causes very real harm. This is both a class and gender issue unbecoming of a top 10 social policy school. And while the progress we've made is truly worth celebrating, we continue the fight for an additional $42,000, which we are now seeking either university or external grant funding to invest in dispensers for all bathrooms in all buildings, regardless of gender. And the fact that it is the students who must advocate, the students who must organize meetings with university administrators, develop contracts with suppliers, calculate the budget, and now write grants, it's embarrassing. Which leads me to the runaround, the first phase of any optimistic student on a journey of institutional improvement. I was introduced to about 20 different, and I say introduced heavily, quoted to more than 20 different administrators, faculty members, staff, and student organizations, several of which stopped responding after about 1 or 2 emails. And I couldn't shake the feeling that people just kind of weren't taking me seriously. In grad school, you're stuck in this really strange in between space. Like, I'm out of undergrad, I've been a working professional for more than a decade, I'm here to expand on my experience, and yet I find myself being dismissed faster than a woman in the tech industry. I will say that the leadership closest to you does know how to get small scale, tangible results. Getting period products at the Heller School wasn't simple, but it definitely was a breeze compared to getting them across the entire campus. University wide policies will require people with university wide priorities. This is where the org chart became my best friend. Some people won't help you because they literally can't. It's not in their scope of influence, and they are probably overworked and underpaid. Others, it is within their scope of influence, and they're honestly still kind of overworked and just hope you'll go away. But crucially, we don't go away. Some kind souls, it's not within their scope of influence, but they do try to help you anyway, and these folks are definitely overworked and underpaid. So, knowing who to let be and who to call back, truly critical, because when you're a grad student with 2 years or less, you need to make the best use of your time. The second hurdle is busy work. This is the bulk of where you have to use your best judgment. I always try to frame my questions around how do we make X happen, or what would we need to do X? weeks because there are a million reasons not to do something, and trying to drive the conversation around what we need to do to make it happen. This usually leads to a hypothetical task list, a list most assuredly a student with a full-time workload would not be able to accomplish in a mere handful of weeks. Yet, between a few graduate students, PAD, and the Undergraduate Student Union, we physically tracked down 69 period product dispensers. We recorded where they were located, if they were broken, and how well they were stocked. We visited a total of 37 buildings, probably put in at minimum 25 hours of unpaid labor. Honestly, what a deal. Not to mention our working group's weekly meetings, extended meetings with university administrators, and all of the difficult preparation that goes into all of these meetings. By the way, you can check out the results of our period product scavenger hunt here or in the description below. I haven't quite gotten there yet. So more than half of the bathrooms on campus don't have any period products available at all. 9 out of 69 dispensers provide free products, but 7 of those were busted. So clearly there's an access issue. And this is where you hold folks accountable. They asked for data and we provided it. It felt like a waste of time, a fetch quest that they likely had the information for, but at best we provided some critical data, and at worst we told them that we meant business. And truly we did both, because everyone is overworked and institutional change means individual labor. This leads me to my list. I have created a top 5 list of tips, not in any particular order, and I'm not even sure if they're actually all in the top 5, but as I reflect on this experience, I wanted to share what I learned in hopes it helps others rebel against the status quo. So, beyond org charts and free work, what can you do to change a financially motivated, risk-averse system? Tip number 1, knowledge is power. Ask loads of questions, starting with why. Like, why don't we have period products? Oh, we had them for free? Well, what program was that? Oh, it was a vending machine? It was never restocked? It was actually just a basket? There's always more to the story. Ask who? Oh, there are 9 free dispensers? They were part of a pilot program? Well, who funded that? That was also funded by the Undergraduate Student Union? And the funding actually just ended this month and no one mentioned it? There's always, truly, always more to the story. And data that you collect through this line of questioning may not always be enough to win the battle, but it does force real conversations around what needs to happen. Tip number 2, be specific and actionable. Take the guesswork out of what needs to happen and be specific with your ask. Canvass the buildings, organize the vendor, present the options, create the budget, leave, no, out. Be as specific as you can and find people to help you through this process. The first several months of this project was just me waving my arms up in the air, asking for help from a bunch of different people. Tip number 3, very quick, but very crucial. Always set a date and know your action items. Who does what, when, where, and how. Schedule your follow-up and project manage the heck out of them. Tip number 4, lots of plans and half solves are gonna get tossed around. Compromises likely gonna be necessary, but don't lose sight of your bottom line and why you are doing this. At the end of the day, yes, increasing access to free period products by 75% is awesome, but not all women menstruate, and not all menstruators are women. In PAD's 2021 survey, nearly 10% of respondents said that they were menstruators and identified as transgender, gender nonconforming, genderqueer, or non-binary. We need to get these products in all bathrooms, regardless of gender. That's our goal. Increased access for some, not the goal. Increased access for all. So whatever your goal is, know that it may have sub-goals or that the journey might be incremental, but each step should get you closer to what that end goal is. Tip number 5, team up. Lastly, it is dangerous to go alone, so take a friend. I had probably 5 different one-on-ones with faculty members and PhD students. I met weekly with 2 different undergrad student groups, and they were great. I mean, PAD, they had already done a lot of this quantitative and qualitative research. The student union is literally a union. They know the laws and the budgetary process. So I've learned how to write grants, build a convincing argument. I learned how this issue impacts people across gender, socioeconomic status, public health, and people with endometriosis. The more people you talk to, the broader this issue is going to become. So the more allies you'll find, and honestly, the more fun you're going to have. These projects, especially when you're not paid for it, can be difficult, exhausting, demoralizing, and can also provide you with a great sense of accomplishment and real experience on how to implement policies. It's going to increase a lot of different types of knowledge. Ask questions, be specific, set dates, stay focused, and team up. A 5-point list makes it look easy, but it isn't. What sounded like a simple idea became a 1.5-year-long journey that still awaits a conclusion. But my goal with this video was to share a few things I've learned from my initial foray into policy advocacy and implementation. And while it's only one example about period products set in modern day academia, these tips will continue to stay with me in any future environment I might find myself in, and I hope they help you too. So, thanks.